You're on the clock with Tyler Jennings and Jared Perkins, a Prospects Live podcast for everything MLB draft related. Join us as we discuss the biggest stories from college and high school baseball, bring you interviews from your favorite draft prospects, and break down live looks with Prospects Live analysis across the nation. Get ready, because you're on the clock with Tyler Jennings and Jared Perkins.
Alrighty, welcome to episode 3 of On the Clock. We got a jam-packed episode for you all today. As always, I'm Jared, here with Tyler Jennings. We got a special guest with us, Brian Recca, who's going to do some live looks with us and talk a little bit about the amateur game. Later in the show, we also have an awesome interview for you all with University of Alabama head coach Coach Vaughn that you're not going to want to miss. Talk a little bit about the Alabama fall season, some updates on Ben Hess, what it was like to coach Matt Shaw, and a few other things. But first off, we need to get into some fall update topics. Tyler, which one do you want to kick off with?
We'll go off for Recca first, because technically yours was, like a day or two before mine. So, Recca, feel free to go ahead. You had Rutgers and Vandy.
Yeah, that was it was really an awesome experience. It's hard to explain for other people across the country, like just how unusual that scrimmage was. Just a team like Vandy's, Vanderbilt, their caliber, coming up here for a fall scrimmage, pretty much unheard of. So it was a really awesome chance to see some players that I normally wouldn't see and see how the local kids stacked up against them, and got to see Todd Frazier. So that was really nice. He's a Rutgers legend. But yeah, there was a lot of pro talent on both sides of the ball. I think that the one thing I took away from it, just seeing the teams side by side, is like Vanderbilt just has so many. The depth on both sides of the ball is just, it's crazy, and that's really the truth for all those SEC schools, pretty much, where it's not even just the guys in the starting lineup or the first several guys that come out the pitch. They have guys who would have big roles on other schools across the country, and it was I didn't see Carter Holton, for example, Sawyer Hawks, who's a transfer from Air Force. He didn't go. A couple other guys, some more recognizable names didn't go, and still it was just loaded with draft talent, prep players that were highly touted. So it was really awesome to get a look at everyone. I would say, for the most part, I would say the two guys on, the pitching probably stood out a little bit more than the offense. The two guys, Grayson Carter was probably, the star of the show. He touched 101 on my radar gun. Didn't throw a pitch below 96. Was 96 to 100 for 2 innings. And he didn't miss a ton of bats, but it's just so hard to get on top of, to stay a little bit under his pitches. Like everybody was just slamming it into the ground, and it was just really hard to get any lift. And it's just, there's this a little bit of late cutting action on his fastball, and it's just really hard to square. And he was in the zone. He showed what looked like a slider, which I think is a pitch that I heard he was playing around with on the Cape, but didn't really use. So he was really good. I got to see Ethan McIlvain. They're probably their number 1 recruit this year, lefty. His brother Chris was on the team not that long ago, was drafted. He was up to 97, looked great. I think he's somebody who could get outs, so can have a vital role for Vanderbilt right off the bat. It was good to see him. Like I said, they just have so many different arms and players, and can fill a bunch of different roles. And someone like McIlvain, to be able to show what he showed, and right off the bat, and show that he can get outs. That's huge for Vanderbilt, and it's going to be tough to find a guy like him innings, because they're so talented.
Yeah, I was going to say that Vandy pitching rotation is stacked.
Yeah,
Even if you get behind like Devin Futrell and Even Carter
Cunningham.
Holton, like they got some pretty good arms. I do worry a bit about the offense a bit, mainly because they've obviously lost a lot of talent over the past couple of years. But with Rutgers showed out, 16 runs across, what was it, 3 6-inning games.
Right.
They have some intriguing pieces too, like Josh Crowder is a guy that we do like. He showed up pretty well at collegiate, or he wasn't at collegiate, but on the Cape. So like, who on Rutgers really kind of stood out to you personally?
Yeah, most of those guys I've seen several times already. So yeah, JKG, just consistent performer. He had a triple in the gap during the game. Looked like it should have been a double, stretched into a triple. That's standard procedure for him. That's he's just a smart ball player. He's a little tough to like put like a draft grade on. It's not like anything that really like jumps out at you. There's not like a carrying tool, but he does everything well and he performs and he's a winner. So it'll be interesting to see where how he's valued, but I expect big things from him this spring. Trevor Cohen hit a home run, which he had a great freshman year last year. He's filling in center now for Ryan Lasko, and didn't show a lot of power last year, but performed at a high level. So him hitting a home run was, pretty good sign for his power potential. There isn't like a ton of like draft, like high level draft guys, but there's a bunch of like, and this has been true for the last couple of years with Rutgers, where it's like Dale Stanovich gets picked, and Nick Samillo, catcher, he got picked by the Pirates, and so it's like they're gonna have plenty of guys go in the pro ball. They also have Christian Coppola, who's sophomore, so he'll be eligible next year, and he looked just as strong as he did towards the end of last season when he started to really put things together. They have lefty Justin Sinibaldi. His velo is up a little bit. His first inning, he was up to 93. He looked like a piece that could be in the rotation for sure the weekend. And they have a freshman, Zach Constant. I'm gonna butcher his name. It's Konstantinovsky. I don't know how they would ever fit that on a jersey, but that's for a problem for another time. But he looked really good and was really nasty breaking ball, 90-92. So I mean, they got the pieces to make a run this year and be a strong team in the Big Ten, but they're also situated pretty well moving forward with some of the young talent they have in there. So tough task playing Vandy, but I mean, they answered the call. I think it probably says more about Rutgers' team than Vanderbilt's. Everybody's at a different stage at this point in terms of, training, development, what they're working on. I will say I agree with you, Tyler, that, the offense for Vanderbilt is a little bit of a question mark. There's not a whole lot of power. I mean, we're used to like having, a Spencer Jones, a Dominic Keegan, JJ Bleday, somebody like that. There really isn't. There's more like, really solid all-around players, a lot of versatility. That said, Jonathan Vastine looked great. Definitely looks like potential day one pick. Looked good at shortstop. And RJ Austin was spraying line drives all over the place. He had a great BP, so I expect him to be, to rise up boards for that 2025 class.
I absolutely agree, and like, even like Davis Diaz is probably some guy that pops up to the page for us too a little bit, But I mean, like you mentioned Trevor Cohen too. Like I remember Cohen last year when Rutgers came down to Campbell the first weekend. I think he had like 8 hits. He led the whole team with like 8 hits that first weekend. And it was like his first true taste of like college ball against arguably a team that should have been a host last year. I really do like the swing. I think it's definitely going to be more like hit over power, but considering the fact that he's a smaller guy and there's still a bit of projectability with that frame, you mentioned the power projection. It's like you could see this guy becoming more of like an average, like fringe average power, moving forward, but maybe like a average to above average hit tool. So hopefully that will definitely work out for him.
Yeah, just one more thing I'd like to add. Prior to the scrimmage between Rutgers and Vanderbilt, I actually reached out. I just want to give a shout out to Aria Gerson. She's a writer for the Tennessean, covers all Vandy sports, and I reached out to her just to get some information about Vanderbilt. Kind of like what to expect, anything position battles to look out for, and she was super helpful. Ton of knowledge there, and she basically predicted, I think almost to a T, what their starting lineup would be, and it was just each position, which pitchers I would see in the first. It was pretty wild. That was a huge help. So go check her out if at the Tennessee and over on Twitter, Aria Gerson.
Oh, yeah, big resource for Vandy sports. I followed her for a while now, and she's been absolutely great in terms of just seeing her tweets. So she's a great asset to have over at the Tennessean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you can get those people who are just locked in on the actual team and know everything, it's always helpful. Tyler, I got to ask you about the Wake Forest scrimmage too. There was some insane data that was just getting tossed out from the Wake Forest baseball analytics Twitter. First, I got to ask about the Nick's Kurtz foul ball, which of course he followed up later on with the 2-run home run. But give us a little bit of insight at Nick Kurtz, and we know we had him on episode 2 of the On the Clock. But what did you see this weekend?
I mean, the big thing with Kurtz is obviously still kind of the same profile as it was last year.
Yeah.
Big slugger at first base. You mentioned the foul ball. It was the first or second inning of the game, and it's we see him. It sounded very loud. First off, it showed up for his BP, and you can tell that everything was off the bat different. The sound was different. The impact was different. He was lacing liners that had no business getting out 25 feet off the ground, and they were just going out with ease. But that foul ball was, I think, at 113 miles an hour off the bat and a 58-degree launch angle, and I bet you it would have gotten out of that ballpark if it was fair. It was in the air for a solid 7 to 8 seconds, and every scout behind the netting was just losing their mind because we're sitting here just if this is Omaha last year where Jack Caglianone hit that one nuke that was 115 off the bat with a 55 launch angle, it's a replication of that in a ballpark that the ball is going to fly out of. So, but no, I think he singled or hit a sac fly the first at bat. He struck out the second at bat, but that third one was 110, 408, dead center off the batter's eye. It's impressive. He played at first most of the day too. I don't think he played in the second game. There was a second scrimmage after the second one or the first one, but it's unreal. And he definitely has the potential to be the 1-1 pick next year if everything goes well and he doesn't get injured. Because he's had the injury bug the past couple of years. Obviously, the Omaha run, he had an over. It was because of a broken rib he sustained in the Alabama Super Regional. So, if we get a fully healthy Nick Kurtz this year, it's going to be special.
Yeah. I feel like the other guy we got to talk about, too, is Chase Burns, that electric factory. And he's now in that pitching lab, which isn't going to make him even more insane.
Yeah, that's just unfair. And having a guy of that caliber in the ACC too is kind of hard to come by. When you think of an ACC arm, it's not like the SEC where we have guys that are upper 90s touching a hundo every once in a while. Most of the guys are soft throwers. I could think of NC State last year. Most of their starting rotation was upper 80s guys. Don Fritton was the hardest thrower in that rotation. He was pumping 90, 92 throughout every single Sunday. But having that kind of arm, just any arm in that rotation for Wake Forest is going to be exceptional. Josh Hartle was up to 94. Michael Massey was touching 96 and missing bats like crazy with the 1-2 punch that he has, introduced a spike curveball, and then some weird reverse slider or changeup. I couldn't tell what it was. I'm still trying to figure it out. With Chase Burns is first pitch was 98, second pitch 98, and then all of a sudden he broke out a cutter slide. I couldn't tell what it was, and I think every scout just about excuse my language, but they just about shit their pants watching it. one guy had 93, and it took an illegal left turn. It was disgustingly good.
Was it called like they call it the slutter or whatever?
I don't even think it was a slutter, dude. It felt like a very hard sweeper at 93. Like it was ridiculous that just that one pitch, and that wasn't even in the video that I tweeted out. Like it wasn't a strike. It still left us like mind boggled. But hit 100 3 times. He was in the zone. The slider is exceptional. He can manipulate the shape of it. 86 to 92. Landed for strikes. It was just diabolical what he was doing to hitters. And most of the Elon guy, like the last Elon guy, did not want to be in the batter's box against that. It was 99, 99, 100.
And if you're a guy at Elon too, and you're walking into that, you're just like, this is insane.
No,
in October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And like Elon's got some really good guys, and like you don't see that in the Colonial or the Coastal or whatever they call it now. I know they changed names, but it was just a ridiculous outing. And he even flashed I can't tell if it's like a splitter or a changeup at 91. And even the slower sliders, you could probably classify it as a legitimate curveball. Like it is ridiculous, the stuff that he has in his arsenal. The biggest thing that I have is how does that expand over a full season?
Yeah.
Is this a guy that's going to be the same thing that you see in like April or May? Or, how is this going to play out over like 70 to 80 pitches? There's a lot of recoil in that delivery, even though the mechanics are pretty polished for Chase Burns. So I'm hoping there's going to be some sort of like reserved recoil in the spring. But I mean, if this is what he is all next year, number one arm on the board, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be insane to watch him. Is there any other guys that stuck out to you during that scrimmage? I know Seaver King launched one as well, but yeah, is there any other guys that stuck out?
Yeah, obviously that Seaver King one 111.408, insane bat speed and an interesting development. Because we talked about the utility that he has. He could play third base, could play second base. He's played some shortstop. He was in center to start the first game. He looked pretty good in there. Like he took workouts out there, has a good arm, moves pretty well. I fully believe that Wake is going to try him out there at some point next year. Austin Hawk's another guy. He batted in the 9-hole. He had a couple doubles. He looked really good. He transferred from UNC. I do believe he's Tommy's brother. So we get another Hawk on Wake Forest. And then just the arms, like Michael Massey was 93, 96 with a cut right fastball and a stupidly ridiculous slider. Cole Rowland is back and he's still a maniac. David Falco is like a low 90s fastball guy. Like he's I don't think he struck out anyone over 2 innings, but like he's a pitch to contact guy and it worked out effectively. And I think Wake had like 17 strikeouts in 7 innings with their arms. Like it was a ridiculous showing. They're just going to be loaded, and they're going to be the favorites to win the ACC, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're a favorite again to win the national title. I know we talked about it before, LSU being better. It might be a little closer than we think.
Yeah, I mean, when you have those two talents at the top, it's kind of insane.
It's kind of crazy that back-to-back years we could be we had the Skeens Cruise Watch all last year. Could they 1-2, and it's like it's not out of the realm of possibility that we get Kurtz and Burns. So
yeah, that's very true.
It's almost like a replica of last year.
Yeah, the question is, do they get 1-2? We don't know. Like
a lot of season left.
Yeah. I mean, Travis Bazana and JJ Weatherholt still exist. So like, this is the top heaviness of this draft class, at least on the college side. It looks really, really good. I like the high upside in this, even if it comes with question marks. Like Brody Breck, does he throw strikes? Hagen Smith, does he throw strikes? He's already been up to 101 this fall. Jack Hagliono's done the same thing. He looks better. Just a matter of everything to come together. If it does, it's a really, really good college class.
You have to assume that for at least some of these guys, it will, like Hagen Smith, or I know you really like Santucci. Like he's somebody that could really rise up this spring.
He's been nasty.
Yeah, Yasovich is great. Like there are guys. You got to figure like some of these guys will take that next step.
Yeah, and like Santucci, I think because I saw him against us in the state scrimmage, and he had 2 innings, looked really good the first inning, second inning kind of like the same as what we kind of saw last year, where like stuff was kind of down, couldn't really command the ball well, kind of got hit up a little bit, but followed that up with I think it was 3 scoreless, 8 strikeouts against UNC Wilmington the other day. Like Fran Oshel, still the same like rocket ship fastball, but now he's got a changeup, and the changeup's actually kind of decent. I'm not at any point where I can like slap a grade on it. Like I've only seen it twice, but it looks pretty good for the fact that he doesn't really throw it often. Like he only threw it like once or twice in warm-ups throughout the past year, and he's going to be starting in the spring, so having that 1-2 punch at the top of your rotation in the weekend is going to be pretty useful for not Wake Forest, but for Duke, and they get Wake Forest the first week of ACC play.
Yeah, wow. It's insane. Tyler, you mentioned JJ Weatherholt a bit. Kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the other topics outside of the live looks as well. He's been playing some shortstop for West Virginia, which is intriguing. I mean, anytime you can get any kind of middle infielder that just hits tanks like he does, it's always interesting. Talk about some of your thoughts on JJ going to shortstop and actually playing in that position. Is that somewhere you think he can stick? And what does that do kind of for his draft status?
Yeah, I mean, I never saw him play shortstop over the summer, mainly because of the fact that he had a hamstring injury during collegiate trials, and even when they did play him, it was second base. But like, if he sticks at shortstop, which just from looking at the reports, it looks like it's pretty good chance that he's going to start there in the spring. That's huge for his draft stock. You're going to value a potential cornerstone shortstop over an offensive minded second baseman or like a third baseman like that. So you do value that position. I think like shortstop and center fielder can like those big value positions in terms of draft status. So if he sticks there, that's big for his draft stock. And like Vaughn is kind of the same thing. I don't know what his status is right now in terms of playing shortstop. But like say Vaughn sticks at second and Weatherholt's a shortstop and continues doing what he's done the past year and a half, like I'd probably go Weatherholt there over Vaughn. I think another one like Colby Shelton, that's a name we didn't expect to hear play at shortstop. A big bulky potential third baseman is like all of a sudden, hey, he's the replacement for Josh Rivera at Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I remember writing the article for Prospects Live, kind of looking at the top transfers. He was one of them, and I was looking at his profile when I saw that tweet that he was going to play some shortstop, and I'm like, that's a big guy going into the shortstop position.
Colson Montgomery, please step on down.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Shelton would be bigger than Colson Montgomery.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. I know Colson's like 6'4", but like Shelton's definitely a bulkier guy than what Colson was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The other story I wanted to talk about, this one is one I've been waiting to touch on. Jay Johnson extension at LSU as head coach, signed like a $12 million deal, I think, over 7 years. What are some of both of your guys' thoughts on that? I have some thoughts as well, but just want to turn it over to you two.
Recca, go first, because I know you had something to say before we transition to that. So go for it, buddy.
No, just going back to this Weatherholt Sheldon thing. Mm-hmm. I feel like we hear this not to discredit things, but we kind of like hear, teams trying out guys. I remember Braden Taylor last year. Yeah, it's like, oh, he's a shortstop, and he wasn't. So just it's interesting with Weatherholt because. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, but like he was kind of like nursing an injury, so you didn't really get to see him run very much. Like, so like now, like who knows? Like it's like kind of an unknown because haven't really seen it in a while. What he can do, from agility, movement aspect. So that's it's interesting, but we'll see if it actually plays out that way. Yeah, I hope it does too, because it would be fun to watch. The Jay Johnson thing, I think my first reaction, I think I said in our group chat, Tyler, I was like, because I don't remember he was like where he ranks the like highest paid coaches for baseball, but it wasn't number one. I was like, I'm surprised he isn't number one. It's like, what else could he do to like get paid? Yeah. Like he's completely turned that program into a juggernaut. And the way he's been recruiting, combined with the transfer portal, the aggressiveness there, and the ability to get talent, high level talents from across the nation, just like it's unmatched. I mean, it seems like a no brainer to me, and it looks like LSU is going to be in good shape for a while.
Yeah. I remember when I worked baseball operations at Nevada the year before Jay Johnson got there. And he came in and just turned a Nevada program to like a 45 win team. And they won 40 games. Of course, didn't make the tourney because they lost their conference championship. But then like 2 years later, he was heading on over to Arizona to all of a sudden take that team to a College World Series. And it just seems like every place that he stops, he just develops a winning culture. Players want to come play for him. He's got the personality where he not only cares about like winning, but he cares about the players who come into his program as human beings and like really wants them to succeed. And he's taken off everywhere he's gone. I mean, even in that Nevada squad, he had Cal Stevenson, he had Jojo Romero, like he had all these guys who went to the big leagues. Miles Mastroboni was another one. Like he brought those kind of guys into a Nevada program that wasn't very good the year before.
He's also just like an extremely nice guy too. Like he was at collegiate. I'm pretty sure it's because he was trying to get Luke Coleman to go from Bama to LSU.
Yeah.
But stopped and chatted with him, like just an unreal nice guy. Like, now I do want to ask this: do you guys know who the highest paid college baseball coach in 2023 was?
No, I don't
Corbin?
actually.
Yep,
Corbin. That's a good guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my guess
Corbin.
because he was like the biggest name before kind of Jay Johnson exploded.
Yeah. And like Jay Johnson absolutely knows how to use everything. Like you mentioned that the portal, the abusing the portal to your advantage is like, that's the only way I can describe it. It's just abuse. Like Tommy White coming over from NC State, you bring a couple guys from Arizona, Paul Skeens from Air Force, and all of a sudden now Paul Skeens goes from like this normal like 92, 95 sinker guy to all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, by the way, he holds 98 to 101 for like 7 innings. Like it's just unreal what he was able to do. And now obviously like Wes Johnson isn't there anymore. He's going to be the head coach at Georgia. I'm excited to see what Georgia does.
Yeah.
That's the team that kept Charlie Condon, has some pretty good arms. There's some intriguing freshmen going in there too, like Trey Phelps. That's what his name. I think his other name was Edward, but everything that I've heard from like Will said he looked really, really good in scrimmages. I'm
Georgia
excited
wasn't that bad last year. I think they were okay, but it's not like they were terrible last year.
Yeah, they swept Arkansas at home.
Yeah,
I remember that much. But they obviously weren't a tournament team.
No.
This year, probably a different story. And I'm hoping that's the case because that Georgia team does look pretty good on paper.
Yeah.
Plus, we don't get Ben Anderson for like an 8th year or something.
Oh, yeah.
Before we move into the last segment of On the Clock, do you all have any other topics you want to touch on?
I mean, it's not baseball related, but like, this is kind of like a big thing for me with, the stuttering community that I'm part of. But like Sunday was our International Stuttering Awareness Day. So I didn't get the chance to kind of, promote it on my profile like I have in the past. But like, if there's any sort of event that we have going on in the future, I'll tweet about it. If there's anybody in the area local to me, the Raleigh area that wants to join, like, feel free. And obviously just like awareness for everything.
Yeah.
We're going to do like a Giving Tuesday thing in about a month or so where
that's awesome.
I'll probably promote like I think it's either the National Stuttering Association or the Friends group. Friends is kind of like if you've heard of Camp Say, which George Springer helps run, it's kind of a similar thing to that. And I know with the Friends group, the big leader that I know or have met in the past, she's on the Men with Health, so she's not able to do everything. So I was like going to try and do at least our best to try and help out on that end. And obviously, like, to move on to a different subject, like all of the content we put out this weekend, like Recca, you killed it with the Vandy coverage. We did over 500,000 impressions on Twitter just between, me at Wake Forest and Recca at Rutgers. So it's a big thank you to everyone that, pays attention to what we do. Like, it's part of the reason why we keep doing this, and it's rewarding for us because now we're putting ourselves into a position where we can continue to pump out the content that we do, but also at the same time further our journey into getting into this kind of situation where we want to work in baseball.
Yeah.
So it's a massive thank you to everyone that's, paid attention to the content, looked at us, said hi to us at the fields. Like, it's a massive thank you. And I think Recca shares the same sentiment on that one.
Absolutely. I was at Seton Hall during the week for fall game, and someone actually came up and said, "Hey, who you with?" And I said, "Oh, I'm with Prospects Live, Brian Recca." I was like, "Oh, I follow you on Twitter. You do great stuff." I was like, "Awesome. That was so cool." So yeah, just makes you feel motivated to go out to another field and get more live looks and stuff. Maybe one day you're not feeling I don't want to drive all the way up to so and so field just to maybe see somebody, but when you have guys, people supporting you, and you see that the work is reaching other people, and it's making other people happy, makes it, you do it. So definitely thanks everyone for the support.
Yeah, and I love that, and that's going to kind of segue into our on the clock segment where we're going to just get viral clips of you guys that will go viral and terrible takes. That's what we're going for.
Oh,
here.
nice! I'm good at those.
Yes, terrible takes, my favorite.
Yeah. So we're gonna, like we said, we have the on the clock segment where both Tyler and Brian this time are gonna go through 5 different questions and give their quick, like less than 20-second take on it. And they may turn out good or bad. We'll find out, and then they can go viral if they're terrible, because that's the only thing that usually goes viral on Twitter. So make sure you have bad takes. That's what we're going for here. First question: over under 25 home runs for Nick Kurtz?
Hammer the over. Hammer it.
It's just an insane number to even consider.
Yeah, that's like when I saw this on like the rundown, I was like 25, like no way. And then he had 24, and I was like, wait, he was hurt at the end of the year too. It's like yeah, I'm gonna go over.
Yeah, I'm taking the over too. I was originally gonna make this 20, and then I looked up like what his home run total was last year, and I was like, oh yeah, no, gonna bump that up a little
20,
bit.
I'm putting my entire mortgage on that.
100%. Next question is, who's your early national pitcher of the year?
Ooh,
there's a lot of good names out there.
My mind wants to say Burns, but I don't really want to be like that cliche, like, I saw this guy, he got, 99 or 97 to 100, this weekend.
I'm not going to be cliche. I didn't even see him. I'm still taking Chase Burns.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you saw the guy who's the number one arm on our board, so it's not like you.
But do I want to be predictable, though, or do I want to have terrible takes? Like, I got to find that fine line,
I picked that guy that was throwing 70 in the Division I tryout.
Me.
Oh, I saw that.
No, I think my pick would probably be Burns, but like, Hagen Smith, Brody Breck, Jack Haley, and you can throw all those guys into the conversation. Luke Coleman, out of nowhere, and like surprise someone. He's not insanely high like those other 4, but like.
But he's in LSU now, and who knows what changes in the arsenal.
He'll throw 104 in the spring, like no big deal.
He'll sit like Skeens did, 99 to 100 in like the 8th inning with 140 pitches, whatever. Stupid things he was doing.
If he fucking does that, I mean, there's some devil magic in Baton Rouge, man.
Yeah. Recca, what about you? Who's your?
I'm gonna go a little off the radar. I'm gonna go Trey Yesovich from East Carolina. I don't know. I like it's hard to say because it's not necessarily a power conference, but he was so good, and he was like 19 years old the whole year. He was looked great since season, and had great numbers last year. I think he's due for a further bump. So I think he's gonna have a great year this year.
And I think too, he was a reliever with command issues his freshman year, and all of a sudden he was one of the best mid-major arms, at least, and probably one of the best arms in the country last year.
The development was just so rapid. So I think East Carolina has a really good track record too the last few years of pitchers for sure. Since Gavin Williams comes to mind, so
Gavin
that's my
Williams.
pick.
Yeah. I was sticking with Chase Burns because I'm going to go with the recency bias and just live with it. So that's it at this point. So the next question, who's your early Golden Spikes Award winner? I'm sure you're going to pick Nick Kurtz, but
Probably I can give you like a finalist, like the 3 finalists.
Yeah.
Bet you it comes down to Nick Kurtz, Caglianone, and maybe even someone like Bazana. Or like if you leave Weatherholt out, if he replicates 2024, that's obviously a big deal. But like any one of those guys could probably win it. But if I had to go with anybody, they're going to two-way prowess is definitely going to be a thing. So probably Cags is my guess. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not a voter, so.
What about you, Recca?
I'm stuck between 2 guys, but I'll go into the Carolinas again. I'm gonna say Vance Honeycutt. And the reason why, I just think the people are gonna, the loud numbers are gonna stand out. He's flashy all over the field, defensively at the plate, on the bases. Like he could realistically, his freshman year he had 25 home runs, stole 20 something bases. Like if he's healthy for a full year, like those are gonna be some loud numbers and they're gonna stand out. And obviously he's really explosive other parts of the game, his game too. So I'll go with that just because I think like the ceiling could just be kind of absurd this year.
Yeah. So I had next one as 3 breakout prospects from this fall, but I'm probably just going to go with who's your 1 breakout prospect that you've seen so far this fall? Or you expect to break out in the spring?
I'm going to go off the radar a little bit. Duke freshman Kyle Johnson is a guy that kind of stands out in my mind. Like first he hopped on the bump against State and was like 92, 96 from the left side through 2 innings, looked pretty solid. And then he's also got some thump in the bat. Maybe I am overthinking a little bit. Maybe it's like an Andrew Fisher kind of deal where, plays 1 year at Duke and then goes to the SEC. I'm hoping that's not the case because if Kyle Johnson does, click in 2024, you're looking at one of the better ACC guys in a couple years in the draft. So my pick is definitely Kyle Johnson.
Nice. Let's see. I'm gonna go. I guess he like kind of already broke out a little bit. I'm gonna go Sean Keys on Bucknell. I saw him last year. Saw him in a scrimmage, and he's just a power hitting third baseman. Really controls the zones. Great discipline, and it's some serious juice. He's like 6'2", 220, thick, strong. Was like a late addition to the Cape this summer, and he just absolutely destroyed like over 1100 OPS. I think he's going to be one of the top, draft names in this area by me. And I was really impressed with his hitting ability. So I think he's going to be a household name, and by the time the draft comes around.
I love it. I love the mid-major love, man.
Yeah.
Gotta.
The guy I'm going with is because I saw him last year as a freshman is Jack O'Connor. He's probably a guy who's going to fly up draft boards in 2025, especially if he gets a little bit more velocity, but low 90s fastball, some good off-speed stuff. And guy I was really impressed with at Virginia. Struggled a little bit ERA-wise and a few other things, but one I'm definitely watching this year.
Yeah, I like him too. Good choice.
Last question is freshman newcomer of the year.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good one. Trent Caraway is the first guy that comes to my mind. Big SoCal guy that was a legitimate thumper. Probably plays third base. He's on that Corvallis now with Oregon State. I just think he's going to be one of the biggest guys to get on campus this year. If there's an arm that I want to pick too, it's probably someone like Hunter Dietz. Arkansas is a good one. This is a guy that was like 86, 89 in April when we saw him at NHSI in Cary. And, apparently now he's touching 99 from the left side, and he's got 3 years of eligibility before he's draft eligible. Like, that's just ridiculous. The jump, they get that much velo in the span of, not even like half a year is ridiculous to think about. But the advantages of college weight room, I think those are my 2 guys to really be the freshman of the year next year.
Love it. What about you, Recca?
It's tough. Stuck between a few guys. I guess, it's tough. It's tough because you also have to kind of predict the playing time and how that's going to shake out, which doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go. I like yours a lot, Tyler, but I can't steal that.
I'm not going to accuse you.
No, I feel bad doing it though. Who's the? I'm gonna go Gavin Grahovec on Texas A&M.
That's a good one.
I heard from a couple people on Texas that he's just been a monster this fall, and it sounds like he's gonna get time in the lineup, and he was somebody that we all liked at Prospects Live, and expected to go to college, but thought he could be a instant performer. And it looks like he's on his way. So I'll go with him.
That A&M outfield is going to be so good next year.
With Laviolette.
Dude, like Laviolette, Braden Montgomery. I think they had an Ivy League transfer that's really good too. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Hayden Schott.
Yep, he's the one. And then you throw Grahovic into that conversation too. Like, that is a loaded outfield.
Juice.
Yeah, the one guy I'm going with is Roch Chalowski, just because he's an Arizona guy. I went to Hamilton High School. I played them, so I'm just going with what I know. But yeah, I went up to UCLA, a guy I thought was going to get taken in this last draft, but apparently just wasn't getting the money that he wanted. But yeah, he's a guy that I think is going to really take off. I should hopefully start at UCLA. I know they got Schreier at shortstop, but I think third base might be open.
Honestly, Rock's a better defender than Schreier is at shortstop.
Really?
I think, if that's the one thing I remember from Rock as a prep is it's a really, really smooth shortstop.
Yeah.
Could be a seniority thing though.
Yeah.
That's
what happened at Nevada.
Draft year.
We had a freshman that was a better shortstop defensively, but the senior started over him.
My thing is, I think Schreier's body fits better at third.
Yeah.
Just with the way he's built, I think it's a better shot for him to try out there and keep Rocket short. But that's just me. I'm not.
Do you think that UCLA would put Schreier at short though, just for draft purposes, or?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, then they keep Rock at third base.
I can see that.
Or maybe even second.
Yeah.
They have what's his face, Gerson.
Oh yeah, Deuce is there. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting infield.
Yeah. All right, well, that wraps us up for On the Clock. That's all you're going to get from us. Brian, thank you for joining us. You can find all the incredible work he's doing for Prospects Live and Live Looks. On Twitter, is it Brian_Recca? Is that right?
I got to be fancy, so I reversed it. I think it's
okay.
Recca. Oh, wait. No, it's not. It's Brian_Recca. I lied to all you. Sorry.
Awesome.
It won't happen again.
Check out all his stuff. Check out all Tyler's stuff. But without further ado, we want to get you over to that interview with University of Alabama head coach Rob Vaughn, and we will see you next time. All right, we have an incredible guest with us today on the Clock. With two-time Big Ten Conference Coach of the Year, Maryland head coach from 2018 to 2023, and now the 33rd head coach at the University of Alabama Crimson Tide. Coach Vaughn, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. Got a scrimmage this afternoon. It's sunny and 75 today, so we're ready to rock.
Love it. We're so excited to have you join the show. I guess for the viewers who don't know you, just give a little bit of background on your journey, kind of how you made it through the coaching ranks and made your way to Alabama.
Yeah, man, I think everybody's story is a little bit different. I kind of was the case of the right place at the right time a couple times, So played at Kansas State. I'm a Houston, Texas kid originally, played at Kansas State for 4 years with Brad Hill, Sean McCann, and a couple different other coaches. And my senior year, I had a guy named Andy Sawyers come in as our hitting coach and really kind of change the trajectory of not only my career in baseball, but really my life in general, and kind of set me on this path of coaching and what that looked like. And, I played pro ball for a couple of years with the White Sox, knew I didn't have half the talent most of these kids have out there. So played for 2 years and got back into coaching and started at Kansas State as a volunteer. I worked alongside John Sheff at the time. He was the hitting coach there. I was the volunteer. When Coach Sheff got the job out at Maryland, offered me a position as a recruiting coordinator and hitting coach. And I was 25. I was very inexperienced, and he gave me an opportunity. So packed up my stuff. My wife and I moved halfway across the country out to Maryland and spent 5 years there as an assistant, worked alongside some really good people. Jimmy Bellinger, who's now at Clemson, who's probably one of my best friends in the world. And Matt Swope, who's the new head coach there at Maryland. Just got to work with some really great people. And, Coach Sheff got a chance to move on and go to Virginia Tech. And, I was 29. I was probably not fit for the job at that point, but we had some pretty good years. In 14 and 15, we had some good recruiting classes coming in. So tricked Kevin Anderson into handing me the keys to the program. And I tell you what, that first year it wasn't pretty. We were 24 and 30 and were pretty bad. But they stuck with us and stuck with me there. And, 7 years later, we were able to do some pretty special things and, hosting a regional for the first time in school history, 3 straight regional appearances, which hadn't happened in Maryland in a really long time. So had a great experience there and was really happy at Maryland, wasn't really looking to leave or anything like that. And obviously everything transpired down here at Alabama, and I got a call from Greg Byrne, our athletic director here, and had some great conversations. And my wife and I felt like it was just the right time. Our kids were at the right age. It was the right situation. It was the right group of people. And here we are, moved down to Tuscaloosa, got the family moved down in August. And, we're a couple months into the job and rolling. But that's kind of my stage of, a lot of being at the right place at the right time. I was able to work through the ranks fairly quickly. And that had way less to do with me being good at what I do and more with just having the right people around me and people that gave me an opportunity when I probably didn't deserve it. And so I think that's what kind of fuels me every day to kind of prove those guys right.
Yeah, I love that. I think the one thing you really touched on, or a couple things you really touched on. One, talked about how everybody's journey is different, right? To getting to the different coaching levels. I think that's an important thing to really know. And I think the second thing that I've interviewed a couple of your former players, Sean Burke, Maxwell Costas, for another podcast I do that really focuses on the human side of the game. And one thing they always talked about is how well you created a championship or winning culture, but also cared about the well-being of your players, right? It was caring about the humans before the player. Talk about how you kind of developed that philosophy as a coach and really putting those guys first, even though you all know you're going for the same goal, trying to win a conference championship, trying to get to the College World Series. But what part of you has always like honed in on the human beings?
No, I mean, that's what this is. I think when you get to the head coaching position, man, it's a lot less about maybe the technical teaching of a skill. Like I have Jason Jackson here as an unbelievable pitching coach alongside Mike Morrison. I have Anthony Papio here as our hitting coach. There's really skilled people there. I think as a head coach, your biggest job is basically interacting and managing people. I think that's really what it boils down to. And, I think I kind of alluded to him earlier, but Andy Sawyers, I think, is the reason I am the way I am. I mean, I had some really good coaches throughout my career back into high school, into college at Kansas State. But the one thing Sawyers did that was something that I will try to never, ever lose in my coaching career is he challenged us. He pushed us. He was hard on us at times. But man, that guy believed in you, and you knew he was in your corner, and you knew if there was, he believed you could be something better than you probably even believed you could be, and I think that's what I want to do for these young people, and that's been some of my conversations here. We've been off to a decent start this fall, and We had some of the pitchers sitting around the dugout yesterday. They're like, Coach, what have you done with so-and-so? What's changed here? What's changed there? I was like, boys, I haven't touched a swing. He's swinging at some better pitches. And more than anything, he just believes he's good now. And I think that's such a powerful thing is we're in such a difficult sport. We're a sport built on guys that fail a lot and how you can reframe success. And so to me, this job will always be about people. And I've had some great coaches tell me through my career, especially when I was really young and just getting started, it's like, man, the trophies fade away, but the relationships don't. And that's something that I've really tried to latch onto. And like I said, I think we've got kids all over the map. We've got guys in pro ball. We've got guys, that are serving in the military. We've got guys working in banks and real estate. I mean, we've got every end of the spectrum, but it's been really awesome to kind of maintain a lot of those relationships in a pretty positive way. And I think that's how you just get the most out of people.
Yeah.
I think this game is going to beat you down enough, and we're going to hold the standard. We're going to challenge guys that are too comfortable and are accepting less than their best. But this job, first and foremost, I think has to be about how you can instill belief, confidence, and trust in people. And all the people in my life that are the reason I'm doing this did that for me. And I think that's one thing I've tried to do, for this next generation of players coming through.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, kind of goes back to that. The game ends for everybody at some point, no matter how long you play it. But the relationships that you make and develop kind of last forever. Tyler, I'll turn it over to you. I know you have some questions about the upcoming fall season and things like that.
Yeah, I did want to touch on the fall here because I know you guys faced Auburn. I want to say last week at this point. What have you seen in the team? Like, I know a couple of the arms like Pierce George is hitting 100. Riley Quick's obviously a flamethrower. What have you seen from the guys, and who's really stood out for you?
Yeah, it's just been a really good fall. I said this the other day. It's been a fun fall for me as a coach because I think last year at Maryland, we had such a veteran team that I kind of went in there and I knew barring injury, I probably knew every position and what order they were going to hit in the batting order and who was going to start Friday, Saturday, Sunday, save maybe one or two guys. Whereas this year I walk in and there's no secret. I mean, we lost every position player off last year's team, either to the draft, to graduation, and then we lost one to the transfer portal, and so you're rebuilding your offense, and you look on the mound, and obviously we lose a pretty good arm in the transfer portal. That just made a business decision for himself, which I understand, and so you're looking at it saying like, hey man, what is our team going to look like? I mean, I've played SEC teams my whole career. I watch them. I know what the ins and outs look like, and the one thing you don't want to be in the SEC, I can promise, is young and inexperienced. Like, that's not a recipe for success in this league. So, as we enter the fall, that's what we were trying to see. We really believed in the kids we got. We felt like it was a really good mix of young talent and veteran professional hitters and some stuff that I thought we needed there. And we really spent a lot of time trying to make sure we got the right people in here. And I know that sounds cliche and corny when you hear coaches start talking about culture and all this stuff, but in year one, man, that's really important to me that we get the right kids in here, that we get guys that respond to the way we do things. I think that's what's really important is not just collecting talent, but making sure we get talent that believes what we do and believes in the way we coach and cares about the things that we care about. And I think Mo, Pap, and JJ did an incredible job of kind of getting those guys in the summer. So as we went into the fall, that's what we're trying to see is what does this look like? I'm sitting there writing the lineup last Friday before we played Auburn, and we were playing with some lineups the day before. I'm like, man, I got a few months here to figure out what's the right order to put these guys in. But the fall has been really good. I think obviously you look at both sides, you look at the offense and then on the mound, and I think offensively it's been a really good fall. It's been really good. A lot of learning, a lot of kind of adapting to just the way our day-to-day goes, and credit these young kids, man. They've been phenomenal at accepting us and taking us in. And, some things are probably very similar to what they've been doing. Some things are probably a lot different, but have just kind of dove in hook, line, and sinker. And, been some really good stuff. Gage Miller's a kid that we knew was a really good player coming in here, a junior college kid. that's just done nothing but hit since he's been here. I mean, he's had a great falls, slugging the baseballs, controlling the strike zone. Ian Petrutz, who I'm super familiar with from my time at Maryland, has been awesome. Been very good. Been probably the best I've ever seen him in this fall. Guy like Will Hodo is a guy that's been here. A guy that's had some success here, but has just had a dynamite fall. I mean, controlling the strike zone. I feel like that guy hasn't swung at a ball all year, I don't think. Just really doing a great job with that. Camden Hayslip, another guy that's a returner with just thunder in his bat. Just to watch him grow from when we got here to kind of where he is now, and starting to see that belief in himself start to show up has been really fun for us. And, then you have a guy like Matt Cassetti, who's been outstanding as a returner. He's that guy. What he can do behind the plate is nothing short of special. TJ McCants has come over and had a great fall from Ole Miss. It's been really good. He's played great for us so far. So I think there's a lot of stuff up and down the lineup that I've been really happy with. We've got a young pup in Justin LeBron that I think is going to be good for a lot of years here. Has a real chance to start at shortstop as a freshman for us, which is not an easy thing to do. So that side of the ball is a lot of learning, a lot of adapting to kind of a new style, maybe as far as what we do. And baseball's baseball, so it's nothing these guys haven't heard. And the coaching staff before did a great job as well. But just kind of having these guys buy into us and what we do has been pretty fun. And then on the pitching side, a little bit of it's business as usual. JJ was here last year with these guys and just does an incredible job. I think he's so good at blending this new analytic, new stuff with a little bit of the stuff in pitching that just doesn't change. Attacking hitters, controlling runners, fielding your position, doing all these things and helping them believe that whatever they have is good enough. And it's pretty easy to believe some of that when you have some of the stuff coming out of some of those arms. Pierce George was outstanding. We say it all the time. There's two types of people in this game, those who are humble and those who are about to be. Our guys have heard me say that a lot. And, Pierce has had a lot of success coming in and has to just keep coming because the second you think you figured this game out, it humbles you very, very quickly. But Pierce has been outstanding. We'll get to see Ben Hess today. It's his first outing for the live scrimmage this afternoon. Hopefully get him an inning against Florida State next week. But Riley Quick's been great. Alton Davis has been great. Some other guys coming along. I tell you, that group of freshman arms, a lot of times you look at them, you just don't know where they're at. Usually it's kind of some stuff, but maybe it takes them a little while to come along. But a guy like Sam Mitchell, guys like Matt Heiberger, Zane Adams, Jansen Kinty, Jonathan Stevens, just some of our young arms that we thought, maybe one or two of those guys help and another couple are maybe a year away. Man, those guys have been outstanding. Aiden Moza he's had a great year last year, went to the Cape, had a great summer. We've kind of lengthened his pitch count out a little bit. Like he's got a chance to potentially move into a starting role this year. And it's just 4 pitches, man. It's 95 with a really good up and down breaking ball, hard slider, and an elite changeup, and he throws tons of strikes. And he's competitive as it gets. I mean, there's a lot of pieces through there that have just continued getting better. And, everybody in this league's good. You can't look here. Everybody wants to know. All my friends are, hey man, how are you guys going to be this year? So, I don't know. I think we play hard. I think we do the right stuff. It's all about can you show up and kind of run through the gauntlet of what the SEC looks like, and can you stay healthy? Those are the two biggest X factors. But I've really enjoyed coaching these guys this fall, and they just keep getting better, which is a lot of fun.
That's awesome, and especially with the amount of firepower you have. You do mention Ben Hess. That was my next question. Was obviously missed last half of the spring this past year because I think it was like a forearm strain. What's the prognosis on him? What's the outlook for him and how he's bounced back from that injury so far?
It's been great. Feels 100% awesome. He's been throwing bullpens. We were having to pull the reins back in the bullpen the other day. The guy. And this is not trying to say this. He looks like Roger Clemens. The guy's enormous. He's just a big physical dude. He's competitive on the mound. In mid-90s in the pen, like it was sitting 92, 93, and all of a sudden he popped a 96. We're like, okay, let's pull that back a little bit. We're not supposed to be that firm yet. But he feels great, and that's all that I really care about. I haven't seen him outside of video, kind of in competitive live, competition. But man, he looks like a big leaguer in the way he goes about his business, not the stuff, just the way he goes about his business. You guys referenced Sean Burke a minute ago. That's what Berkey did. Berkey looked like a big leaguer just in the way he approached the game and the way he approached his work every day. It was just so incredibly professional. And that's what Hess has done. He looks great, feels great. He's going to throw today. We're going to keep him to 15 pitches today, but has had no hiccups, has felt awesome coming back. Looks like he's back in a good spot. So we'll throw him today. If all's well, he'll throw next Saturday against Florida State. And then we'll probably kind of have just an active rest type situation for him and build him back up. But all things are trending towards him being ready to go for the spring.
Sweet. Perfect. That's great to hear. And then, of course, with the spring, what's the expectations for you guys? You come off a year where you hosted a regional and then went to the Supers against arguably one of the best teams in the recent memory in Wake Forest. What's the outlook looking for you guys in 2024, especially considering this is your first time going from a Big Ten to SEC?
Yeah. I mean, the outlook's never going to be to not win. I think everybody comes in here and it's like, man, we got to get the culture right and we got to do this. That's all no brainers. Like, of course we do. That's a no brainer. The bottom line is this game's still about winning, and I think, we have kind of we call it the mission of Alabama baseball. We talk about a lot of stuff and, coaches will always give you kind of the coach speak about the process and about this. And it has to be about that. I mean, that's what your focus day to day has to be on. But at the end of the day, I can promise you I didn't move my family halfway across the country to just try hard down here. Like we're going to come out and do whatever we can. And I think we have a good group of kids. I think you have to be resilient. You have to be tough. We talk about a neutral mindset here a lot, which is, Trevor Moad is one of my favorite authors. He's recently passed a year or so ago, but did a lot of work with Nick Saban too. And you hear a lot of that stuff when I walk down here, a lot of stuff that you hear come out of Coach's mouth is a lot of stuff that him and Trevor worked through together before Trevor passed. And that's what we talk about. Neutral mindsets. Basically the past is not a predictor of the future unless you let it, good, bad, or indifferent. And we've got to show up every day. And there's days in this league, you're probably going to take it on the chin, and the best of the best show up the next day and the slate's clean. They know they're prepared. They know they're ready, and they go back to work. And I think that's something our teams at Maryland did a really good job of, particularly the last 2 or 3 years. Everybody talks about, the year that we hosted a regional for the first time in school history, which was special. But, man, we got throttled a couple times. We got beat 19-1 at Illinois on Friday night and had to come back and win the back end of a doubleheader, and we're able to sweep the next 2 days. So I think that's a piece of it. I think in this league, you have to be able to take a punch because it doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, maybe save Tennessee a couple years ago when they got hot and kind of ran through the league. Like, you're going to get smacked at some point, whether it's for a game, whether it's for a weekend. You ain't coming through this thing unscathed. But I think that's the reason these are the teams that win in the postseason. I mean, there's a reason that the national champions come out of the SEC West for the last few years. There's a reason, because they're battle tested, they're tough, they're hard, and they can withstand some adversity. And so we're looking forward to getting going with it. It's going to be a bear. I'm by no means naive about what I'm walking into. I sat in a room at Birmingham at the SEC coaches meetings, and you're looking around at some of the best coaches in the country that know how to recruit, win. Dave Van Horn sitting two seats down for me. I don't know if there's a bigger winner in the country than that guy. I mean, sitting next to Tim Corbin, Kevin O'Sullivan. I mean, I'm not naive as far as what we're walking into, but our expectation doesn't change, and we're going to go lay it all out there and see what we got.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I just have a couple more questions kind of before we wrap up. I think the first is you talked about a lot about the importance of having like leadership, right, in the locker room. You could talk about having a lot of young guys. When you're at Maryland, you got to coach Matt Shaw, which that guy, I got to cover him for Prospects Live. Absolute game around the field. You could see the leadership traits just from watching the games. What was it like to coach a guy like that? And how do you, one, take those leaders and give them the role, too, that they have to lead the team?
Yeah, I mean, there's no secret. I mean, I will hopefully coach for a long time, and I don't think I'll ever coach a kid like Matt Shaw. I mean, That guy was special, and he was special from the jump. I mean, that guy, when we recruited him, you didn't know what position he was going to play, but you knew he could really, really hit. You knew there was athleticism in there. He was a soccer player in high school, a really good soccer player in high school, so you knew the feet worked. You knew he was athletic. but I just love the mentality. I mean, it was attack the game when he comes in, and he came in, and it was during COVID, and we're doing like these Zoom meetings on whatever, trying to act like we're doing something. It was it was awful. But I remember we went around and it was like, hey, what's your goal for this year? Because we're trying to think of something to talk about in these things. And he's a freshman, and you have a lot of the upperclassmen at the time saying, like, go to a regional, go to this, get back to the postseason. And Matt Shaw literally said in his first meeting on Zoom at Maryland was win a national championship. And he believed that. Like, to his core, that's what he believed. But what separated him is not just the fact that he said that, which took some guts for a young kid on that Zoom, but the fact that his day-to-day work and decisions and everything he did pointed back to that being the central goal of winning a national championship, of doing something never been done in school history before, from the way he ate to the way he slept to the way he trained to the way his mind worked. I mean, that guy is just a unique and special player, and is a game-changing guy. I mean, you won't find a guy, and I guess you can, but that guy, all he cared about was winning. That guy was on pace to make ridiculous amounts of money. He was doing ridiculous things, and all he cared about was winning. And I think what separates him, and this is the story I told people a lot, is, he started off last year not playing awesome, and now Matt Shaw's not awesome as 300 with 5 homers in the first month. So let's put that in perspective. It's not like the freak that he has the ability to be. And turned it on. It was late March. He gets that thing rolling. And I remember talking to him, and I said, Matty, help me coach the next generation of dudes here. Like, you're in your draft year. There's a lot of hype around you. Were just a Cape Player of the Year, yada, yada, yada. How have you been able to take a mediocre start and not let that spiral you down the tube? Because that's what a lot of people do in their draft year. They put all this pressure on. They do this, they do that. And he looked at me and he goes, Coach, it doesn't matter if I'm a first rounder or a 10th rounder. I'm going to play in the big leagues anyway, and that's the only thing that's my goal. And he didn't mean that arrogantly. That's just genuinely in his soul what he knew. He knew what his future was going to hold, and that's what makes him special. And I think when you have a guy like that in the locker room, whether he's your best friend that you want to go hang out with on Friday night or not, there's a respect and there's an appreciation for what that guy brings to your program, both from coaches and teammates alike. And, like I said, I've got to coach some special kids. There was multiple special kids on those last year's teams. But Matt Shaw's combination of mentality, ability, and just dedication to what his long-term goals are. I mean, that's what grit is, right? We talk about grit around here a lot, like passion and perseverance for long-term goals. That guy had that in spades, and that's what's going to make him a big leaguer here real soon. And he's a special kid, a great family. I wish I could say I coached Matt Shaw. I just kind of hung out and watched him do his thing.
Yeah, I was going to say the mindset and the work ethic, it reminds me a lot of Alex Gordon with the Kansas City Royals, right? That guy showed up, same routine every day, same personality in the clubhouse. He was coming in to try to win a championship, to try to win baseball games. And everybody in that clubhouse looked up to him, even though he wasn't the most vocal leader. He was kind of like the silent leader who everybody looked up to because he had that routine.
No question.
Yeah. I think the last question I have for you is what matchup, now that you're in the SEC, what matchup are you looking forward to most in 2024?
Oh, man. Opening weekend against Manhattan, I think.
Yeah.
No, it'll be fun. I mean, shoot, we got a taste that I made it ended up working out well for us because we played really well, but I learned really quickly last Friday what that Auburn-Alabama matchup looks like, I mean, a lot of people care about that. And as we walk into this, we talk about it, man, we want to be great in our state, just like they want to be great in the state. And you have these rivalries all around. Like, I think that's kind of the natural rivalry that you look at is I think will be compared to the people 3 hours down the road quite a bit. And we've got to do a good job of competing against them on the recruiting front, on the baseball field, and everything. But man, I'm just excited to experience the league. It's funny that for years, you hear the slogan in the SEC, it just means more. And for years, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, this is stupid. It doesn't matter. It's baseball. It's 60-foot bases. And or 60-foot, 90-foot base, all this. Like, that was kind of my thing because that's what it had to be, right? I was in the Big Ten, I was in the or the ACC, whatever it was. And, but when you get down here, it does. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, the care of people in Tuscaloosa, the care of people just in the SEC for their sports programs is just unlike anything I've ever seen, and I think there's some accountability that comes through that. Like, I was sitting getting my hair cut the other day, and, I lived in Annapolis when we were in Maryland. Great town, great spot, loved it, about 40 minutes from campus. And I think one time in 11 years that I have somebody come up and say, "Hey, you're the baseball coach, right?" I'm sitting getting my hair cut the other day, and somebody comes up and is like, "Hey, welcome to Tuscaloosa, coach." And that's happened several times through here. And my son, who's 7, thinks it's the coolest thing ever. But I told him, I was like, "Buddy, we hadn't played a game yet, and they all think I'm really good at what I do." Like, if we go 0-5 or we lose a big weekend, they're going to recognize me, but they ain't going to have good things to say about me.
Yeah,
we have to understand that. And so, so it is, but it's just been neat. I'm just excited to go out and compete with this group. I mean, the reality is it is the same thing. We have to be us. This league isn't going to change who we are. This league's not going to change how we do things. It's going to always be about the people. It's always going to be about gritty, tough kids that play the game the right way. And we have to create that identity for ourselves. We've just kind of started that process doing that, but we have to continue to create that. And, man, I just believe that stands up. And I don't think it matters who you're playing, where you're playing. If you can train that and believe that and have good enough players within that, you've got a fighting chance. And that's who we're going to be. That's the identity we want to create here. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to go to the LSUs and the Vanderbilts and the Mississippi States and the Ole Misses, the South Carolinas, the Floridas. Like, those are all, as I'm saying those out loud, I'm like, good gracious, there's not a break in there anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's what you want, right? I think true competitors, I think that's why so many players want to play in this league. I think that's why so many coaches want to coach in this league is you want to stack yourself up against the best of the best. And I think that's the competitor in you. And so we're looking forward to getting after it. Talk to me about 6 months. I might sing a different tune, but we're excited to get going with it. Fall's been awesome. We got about 2.5 weeks left. We need to finish it up the right way. But proud of the kids, and, man, I'm love being in Tuscaloosa right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, Coach, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us. We know you're busy and have such a busy schedule, especially with things kicking off in the fall. And we're wishing you nothing but the best come out this upcoming season.
Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.